Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, world. How's everybody doing today? We are live on Facebook, and I'm here today with Minister Fred Shaw. And as I mentioned yesterday in the preview, we're going to talk about mental health awareness. I understand this week was Mental Health Awareness Week, starting, I believe, October 1st, if I'm not mistaken. So I got an interesting article from Minister Fred Shaw, and it was about restraining uh, the young children. And in this article, it talked about a 7-year-old child, a little boy that was murdered in a psychiatric residential center. And this happened in Kentucky. So we're going to talk about this as well as chemical imbalance today. So again, I'm Louise Hicks, your host of Aim to Purpose and Empowerment, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And we are again live. Please go to my YouTube channel, subscribe. It's Aim to Purpose Radio. Aim to Purpose Radio. That's AIMED, the number 2 radio. And that's my YouTube channel where you will find that we have spoken before on my previous radio show back in California with Minister Shaw and some other guests. And he's been on this particular show a few times. So we're having him back, and he's going to come back again because whenever we have something to offer you about mental health, we're going to talk about it because it is a crisis here in America. It's a crisis. And we need to make everyone aware of it. And we need to put more emphasis and interest in the mental health system here because it's broken. So today again, mental health awareness, restraint usage and children, the rising death rate, and chemical imbalance. And since Minister Shaw has been on here before, we're just going to give you a little brief introduction. He is the Director of Public Affairs and Spokesperson for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights International, CCHR, which has been a mental health industry watchdog for more than 50 years now. And he also established a task force against institutional racism in the psychiatric industry. And this is well needed. So Minister Shaw has done so much to help with the civil rights and the mental health industry, and forming that task force is a good thing. So welcome, 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 Minister Fred Shaw. Thank you for coming on today.
Well, thank you. No problem. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to express what people need to know and to bring the information necessary so we can protect our own families and things. I know that sometimes people get the idea for some reason that this is conspiracy theory talk, but it's not. It's actual fact. And what is going on is basically harming the children and the adults of our society.
Yes, it is. And that is why it's so important that we talk about it, because so many, I think, out in the general public, I don't think we are paying close enough to what is going on with our loved ones. And believe me, it is widespread amongst the homeless, widespread against the incarcerated, widespread against the institutionalized. That's another form of incarceration when you're institutionalized in psychiatric facilities or rehabilitation facilities for the so-called mentally ill. So this is why I speak so much on it, because I have a son that was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 14, went on to battle depression and drug addiction. And this is dear to my heart for that reason, number one. And I've seen so many others out here, like Minister Shaw, who have family members, loved ones, and they feel helpless, they feel hopeless. And we need organizations like the CCHR, Citizens Commission on Human Rights, and we need more people like us to join in these grassroots organizations so that we can get some policy changes and so forth. So today, this was brought to my attention, and it was heartbreaking when I saw this article about this 7-year-old little boy, J.C.M. Perry, a 7-year-old foster care child, who was restrained and killed at Brookline Psychiatric Residential Center in Louisville, Kentucky on July 17, 2022. This has been recent, and in September of this year, the medical examiner ruled his death a homicide, finding he had been suffocated. That is sad. It's heartbreaking. He was suffocated. And also, it brings to mind another case that was in this article. A 16-year-old foster child in a psychiatric institution was also deemed murdered by a medical examiner. So with that said, let's talk about our children. And these children, many of them are Black children, unfortunately. And is that why you started the task force, Minister Shaw, because you saw the racism within the medical psychiatric industry? And let's talk about these children and what's going on.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, because it is part of the reason that the task force was started. It's the CCHR Task Force Against Racism and Modern Day Eugenics. The idea that a child can go into a mental institution and then be killed. We all protested. There was Black Lives Matter, everything going down when George Floyd was killed. But we can have a 7-year-old killed in a similar manner or any kind of manner, and the voices are silent. The people don't know. It's not on television, and it's not being reported. If you have the report and I have the report, how come this isn't all over the news?
Absolutely.
You know, if I took a little 7-year-old and held him down till he died, they would arrest me and put me in jail for murder. You got two big people, adults, who cannot contain a 7-year-old without killing them. See, there's something wrong with this whole picture. And this isn't. The boy that you mentioned, Cornelius Frederick, threw a sandwich. And by the time they got finished, he was dead. So me and you, we were told we couldn't spank our children.
Absolutely.
We couldn't do that with our own children, but the people in the mental institutions can do it. And many times they don't even get prosecuted or even brought up on charges. Right. So the thing is, to say that a 7-year-old is so out of control. And let me tell you something else too. Why is a 7-year-old in a mental institution?
That's question number one. Why? Absolutely.
Because when his behavior is a little wild, then the mother and them are told to take him to see a therapist, and then the thing progresses from there. When I was young, my mother and father had the cure for all these social disorders. It was called a switch. And you didn't have to use it often for the kid to get that when we tell you to do something, you do it. When we tell you to stop, you stop. Now, I'm not an advocate for whipping and beating kids, but let me tell you something. There is a place for when a parent speaks in a certain tone, a child must be able to hear that voice, because you may be saving that child's life. I remember one time, let me tell you something that happened. This was years ago. I think I was a sheriff deputy at the time, but I wasn't in uniform. And a little boy broke across the street and cars were coming both ways. And I screamed at him and froze him in his tracks. And that car went right by him. By the end, his mother grabbed him and everything. But you have to understand, that's what little kids do. They will break and run. There's nothing wrong with them. My nephew, my youngest nephew, he ran all through we was eating dinner. He ran all through back into the kitchen and stuff. He was like 3 years old, and we couldn't even catch him. It's like, that's what kids do.
That is what they do.
But now we got it where all of these things are mental illness. And if the kid, if they can't control him in the school, then he needs to be put on drugs. He needs to be put in a mental institution. We need parents to handle. You use the balance of love and you use the balance of discipline. And the kid will decipher very soon what he should and what he should not do. And I'm not saying restrict him, he can't move. Kids get into things. Let them be who they,
kids.
Exactly. And we used to call them the terrible twos. There was a reason they were called the terrible twos.
They're even putting 2-year-olds on medications now. 2-year-olds on medication. That's ridiculous.
Some of them even put on Prozac.
I tell you, and let me share this with you quickly. What you said is so true. Why is a 7-year-old in an institution, first of all? Now, I have some firsthand experience with this. I went through with my son when he was 14 because of the cancer. And when he was sick, my 6-year-old daughter, she was going to be turning 7, about the age of this child. And she was going to a Christian school. And they were telling me she needed to be on something. She was this and that. The child was suffering from neglect by me because she didn't feel even though I wasn't neglecting her, in her mind, she felt she wasn't getting enough attention from me. And she wasn't getting the attention she was getting prior to my son, David, coming down with the cancer. So in her mind, she's forgetting about me. So she started acting out at school, talking a lot, nothing major, just talking. She took my jewelry to school, was handing it out on the playground, different things like this. And they were advocating at this Christian school, me taking her to the doctor, putting her on some Ritalin of all things, which is nothing but candy cocaine, because I did my research and I even did a speaking engagement about it. And I told them, before I put her on any Ritalin, I will take her out of this Christian school and put her in a public school, because I'm not putting my daughter on candy cocaine. And I took her to her doctor, her pediatrician, and the pediatrician herself was appalled at what was going on. She said, what? She said, my daughter used to talk at school and so forth and blah, 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 blah. And she said, some kids that's their personality. They're more talkative than others. So some of these teachers need some training in mental illness, mental health. So at any rate, my pediatrician sent her to a social worker. The social worker spoke to her with me present. She sat there at 6 years old, crossed her legs, and this is my daughter, Crystal, crossed her legs and said, I just want to be sick like my brother because he gets all of the attention. She just needed more attention from me. I needed to free myself up some in order to give her the attention that she was used to getting, sit her down, talk to her, explain to her the reasoning behind this, and that you don't want to get sick like your brother. It's painful shameful to be sick like your brother. And she went to a few sessions, talk therapy only, with her social worker. And we were fine because I was able to get it so I could give her more time, because I had a major support system that was coming with me, cooking for me, cleaning my house, doing things for me, my family, my friends. And this is what children often need if they have a crisis in their family. I don't know why this child was institutionalized in the first place, but some of these children are institutionalized because their parents are on drugs or something happened to their parents, they're incarcerated, and that can be devastating to a child. So why would you want to lock them up in the first place rather than giving them what you said, love, support? So I just wanted to share that story because oftentimes parents and grandparents or caregivers don't know how to handle these situations. And that's why we need shows like this. That's why we need advocates out here. And a lot of these people are social workers and therapists, but what are they doing? Some of them need therapy, even some psychiatrists. So elaborate on that.
Well, let me, first thing I want to make sure that the audience understands that there is no science involved in the mental health system. I know it's been perpetuated that way. I know that everybody talks about it as if it's a science, but there is no science. Okay, after CCHR has been for 30 years or more talking about no chemical imbalance of the brain theory, now finally, after the University College of London took 17 studies and reviewed them thoroughly and found that there was no chemical imbalance of the brain. Nothing proved it. So now they've been making 15.6 billion a year on the chemical imbalance of the brain theory when it is not true. Now let me take it one little bit step further. You look at the diagnostic statistical manual, and there's no statistics in the book. So this whole thing is fraudulent. You, I, or anybody else on the planet can be found to have something in the diagnostic statistical manual that would say that we're mentally ill. So when we even talk about it, see, when we even talk about it, when we even say they need better training, no, actually, all they need to do is have training on how to restrain people without hurting them, because there is no training set up that they have that do anything to make the person better. You and I could talk to a friend, and the psychiatrist can talk to a friend, and you and I have a better chance of convincing them not to hurt themselves than they do.
Yes.
So the thing is that when we're looking at this, and we're looking at little 7-year-old, and let me tell you, yeah, Black kids are being overrepresented in the field of mental health, but they're killing white kids too. I don't want people to think that white kids aren't being killed. White
because
kids
they're not
also
excluded.
That's
they're
right.
Excluded. And other ethnicities as well.
Exactly. The psychiatric drugs, according to the commercials, can cause suicidal thoughts and actions. So what could be wrong with a child that we would give that child the death penalty? See, this is the way we have to look at it. See, now me and you, if we promote this too much, they may censor us and take us off the air. Because right now, this country, it's about the narrative they want. It's not freedom of speech, because with freedom of speech, you know, I mean, all of a sudden we have this cancel culture.
Yes.
That you can attack the religion is convenient to attack. You can attack the people is convenient. You can attack the people who don't necessarily agree. You can without any thought, without any proof. They just tell us to do something. And then if we say, if others, do you know they just passed, and I'm not getting into the COVID or none of that. But they just passed a law that the governor has signed saying that they will go after doctors who give misinformation. What that does is it shuts down truth. Because
Yes, it does.
it's not the person who's in the group that evaluates that group. It's the people outside of the group that evaluate that group. So if I can't say that psychiatry is a fraud because most people agree, you know, we don't get that when they say democracy, that just means the majority rules.
Fit their agenda. That's how a lot of this is, to fit their narrative and their agenda. And I'm glad you brought that up about censorship, because there is no freedom of speech. Because if you say something that the powers may be feel is misinformation, I said feel because there's nothing proven that it's misinformation. What makes them think that their medical doctor's information is more accurate than the other side's doctor's information?
Exactly.
And then the other part to that, what makes them think that the American public is so stupid that we cannot use our brains, our intellectual part of our brain, to capture that information and make a discerning, informed decision about our own health care? That is utterly nothing but putting us in prison here in America. And that's what they're doing. And it's not, as you said earlier, just Black people. We just happen to get the bulk of it. It's anybody that goes against the grain. And I can tell you that because when I was doing our our show in California with my son, Kenan, we had some doctors on, medical doctors, white medical doctors. And this was 2014 or 15. YouTube took it off of my channel just recently. I believe it was July, because they said it was misinformation. Also, another one of my guests came on and gave personal information about his own family, had to do with autism. Took him off of my YouTube channel, saying it was misinformation. So don't tell me anything about freedom of speech in America. If you fit the narrative of the powers that may be, or you go along with their agenda, then you're okay. It's something that Kanye West said. I don't know whether you knew about the controversial with him with the t-shirt that said white lives
matter.
Mm-hmm. Now, all lives, it's common sense. All lives matter. So there was an issue with it, and I had my say about it, but that's not my point. My point is he was on Fox News as a result of this, and he said some things on Fox News that made lots of sense. I've never said Kanye West is crazy. I feel sometimes that he says things that make you question sometimes, and we all need therapy. I think at some point in time, I've had therapy and I don't have a problem with it, because sometimes you just need to talk to somebody because of things that may be going on in your head or whatever. But to censor somebody, and he talked and he was open about his feelings on what he thought. I don't have a problem with somebody giving their opinion, or one medical doctor giving their medical, and some of these doctors have done extensive studies, but they're going to censor one that was on our show who had done, he was a medical doctor, white medical doctor, extensive research and study, but they're going to take him off because he was talking about information that some of these other doctors, like Dr. what's his name? Fauci, and some of these other doctors out here. I mean, this man had more credibility than a lot of these other doctors out here, but they're going to take him off and censor my YouTube channel. And it's appalling to me, because we don't have that constitutional, so they claim, freedom of speech. So I'm glad you brought that up, because
Well,
I'm tired of being censored because I have an opinion and I do research. My truth is just as good as anybody else's truth. And these medical doctors that go against the power structure, their truth is just as good. It's up to us to decide. We should be allowed to decide what we want to go into our bodies. Critical thinking and intellectual abilities.
well, you know, you're hitting on a very important point. And see, that's why a republic is so important, because it deals with the human rights. And
Yes.
the Bible said there was a time when there was no king over Israel, and every man did what was right according to his own eyes. That's what we have going on right now. And I just say, I don't want to be anybody's thought police, and I don't want anybody to be mine. I know that when I talk on the field of mental health, we do a lot of research. You've seen our museum, you've seen our bookstore, we do a lot of research, and we confirm our information and stuff. It's a better chance that I give you the wrong information interpreting our information than it is for our information to be wrong. You know what I'm saying? Because our information is right. Sometimes facts get jumbled in your head, and you quote something that you heard in education that actually didn't come out of mental health, but because you got so much information in your mind. But for the most part, our information is very accurate. But the thing is this, and I don't want parents to get away from this. The primary job of a parent is to raise a kid in such a way that that kid has an ability to ask important questions, and that kid has the ability to be successful in the future. That's the job of a parent. Everything we do is supposed to lead the kid in that way, so that the day that we're not here, they can take care of themselves. In this society right now, they want us dependent on everything. For example, you mentioned something that is so important. You might not have known it. You say you had therapy and stuff, but when we were kids, the therapy came from the ministers. And because they attacked education, attached education to it, now they made the minister seem obsolete, and then we start replacing prayer with a pill. The moment you replace prayer with a pill, you no longer need God.
Absolutely.
So the things that we used to handle internally, let me tell you something, because I fight this stuff about, somebody sneezed in front of me and I'm mentally ill. We came through slavery. We came through the civil rights movement, where they were hanging Black people in the South and setting them afire and doing those type of things. We got whipped in the slave fields and had to work under that sizzling heat. Don't tell me, because somebody hurt my feelings over the internet that I don't even know, is something that's inherent in me to hurt myself. We grew up with the bullies. We had to deal with all of this stuff, and we couldn't get on the internet and tell people I need help. We couldn't, because my dad said, "Oh, so what you gonna do about the bullies?" It wasn't like, what you gonna do about it? But now I can be bullied. I can knock somebody out who's bullying me, and now I'm aggressive and need mental health treatment. Even though the other person, see, they don't even have common sense. All you do is tell the bully to leave people alone.
Yes.
See, but now I got to go through aggression behavior. I got to go through all this because a guy keeps picking on me, and I deal with it. But because I physically punched him, then I'm the bad guy, even though I might have reported it to the school, I might have reported it to the principal, my parent might have brought it up to the school district. But the moment that I can't take it anymore and I respond, which is the natural way of people, then what is this? And I want to reemphasize it. And some things that I say of me, they're not CCHR. CCHR have never told me a policy on people fighting back. That's what I learned in the street. So I just want to make sure we don't get Fred Shaw mixed up with CCHR when it comes to certain handles. But
Right.
I know that our philosophy in the family, we start nothing, we finish everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way my kids were raised. That's the way we were raised. And we never start nothing.
Right.
But we finish it, you know? And so we have, and look at right now. And this thing, so all I want to, and see what they're doing is they're creating a society where we got what I think it's about somewhere between 6.1 and 6.7 million children on psychiatric drugs. Now, let me just give you this to think about. Let's say it's 6.5. Let's say 1% of those people on those drugs, just 1%, 1 out of every 100, can go off and do a mass shooting or kill some people. That's 67,000 time bombs in the United States alone. And we're wondering why we're having a mass shooting every week.
Yep.
Because the drugs say they can cause suicidal tendencies or action. Well, a homicide is just a suicide done to other people.
Right.
See, a suicide is a homicide done to yourself. That's all. If I kill me, or if I kill you, it's still a homicide. We just call one a suicide. That's all.
That's it. That's the only thing. And you mentioned earlier about the commercials when you just said what you said, how all these side effects, suicidal and all that. It's interesting because they say it right there in the commercials on television. And if we're censored for saying something that is publicly advertised, why? Because it says it right there on all these commercials when you see them advertising drugs. And I remember when we were kids, you didn't see these types of advertisements. And now almost every commercial, they're advertising a drug and they're telling you, they name the drug and then everything else downhill about the side effects. And if you have this, don't take blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's very interesting. And it does have to do with common sense, I feel, because many of us have lost that ability, though, for common sense, because we're going along with the status quo. We're being programmed. We watch so much television that is not conducive to a healthy mindset, especially us as Black people, too. We watch a lot of television. And when you said that about the school, how they took prayer. I remember going to school and we had prayer. We would have prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance when we were in school. And I went to an all segregated school. Then they outlawed prayer. And once they outlawed prayer, all this stuff is by design, because look at the prison complex, how it started getting. But who's in the prison complex? Mostly Black people are in there, the majority, and there are others in there too. That's by design. It's without the chains, but look at the prison. And some of these people that are in there, they shouldn't even be there. They're in there when white people, many of them, they get lesser sentences for the same petty crime. Even for a major crime, they often get lesser punishment. So I don't call it a justice system. I call it an injustice system, and it touches all aspects of our lives. And that's unfortunate. So well, it's sad.
Well, I've often said it's amazing how once they get in prison, they can pray, but they can't pray when they're in school before they ever go to prison.
Absolutely.
And my thing is you don't have to have anybody do a loud prayer, but why can't you have a silent prayer or a silent moment where anybody's faith can be recognized within themselves? It's not for me to proselytize to the other school members on what they should be, but I should be able, and they should be able, if they're Muslim, Jews, Scientologists, Buddhists, if they whatever, to have their own internal recognition of God the way that they see it from their viewpoint. But we focused on one thing, because if we focus on Christianity, now you might get the Jewish brothers and the Muslim brothers and them upset. So now you done divided the spiritual community, and now there's nobody to stand up for themselves. And see, they have hurt us so many times in the name of help that if they actually came with help, we wouldn't believe them anyway. You know, it's like you can go to, I've had people tell me to help me with my diabetes, and this is not to get off the mental health subject, but we got to be able to create analogies. Absolutely. I've had people tell me to do the whole meat only diet. Meat only, no vegetables, not just meat only. I've had people tell me just a straight vegan, no meat, no meat. I've had people say that there's no correlation between diabetes and sugar and carbs and stuff. I've had all of these people were so-called experts, and I got to navigate through all of that because it's not quite science yet.
Absolutely.
See, I can go to Africa, I can go to China, I can go to Russia, and they can all take my blood and they'll tell me I'm diabetic. That's science.
Mm-hmm.
See, but diets and things like that, not that they won't work. Some of them will work. Healthy eating is healthy eating. It shouldn't even be called a diet. It just should be called healthy eating. But if we do it properly, we can get results. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're using science.
Right.
See, and that's what we have to look at. LA County, and I don't know why to keep popping in my universe, but LA City School District, a judge just ruled in the last 6 months that they can sue for being made to take the shot because the shot is experimental.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Now, I'm not going to say if the shot is good or bad. I got my own opinion.
I don't know.
I want everybody to make up their own mind.
Absolutely. And have the freedom to do that. That's what I argue about. We should have the freedom to decide what we want to put in our body. Because if you don't have that freedom, what is the Constitution good for if it says you have the freedom of expression and the other parts to it, and freedom of speech? So why is it you're telling me or anybody what we should put into our bodies? It's my body. So why are you censoring what our opinions are as citizens of this country, or one doctor against another? It's ridiculous. And also you were saying about the diabetes and getting off. It's really still on the subject from my perspective. And I say that because when you have a lot of ailments, you're getting a lot of medication. Some people are walking around with 25, 30 medications or pills or whatever you have to take per day. I know somebody that was on 25 pills a day. And when you're on all this stuff, that has to affect you emotionally. So why not get some therapy to help talk? Why not get a second opinion doctor to go through all of these medications? Why not? We have access to information ourselves. Why not look up all of these medications yourself and see what they're doing to your body? Prime example, my mother passed in 2015 at 92. I went through all of her medications because I'm saying, why is she on all these? She had about 15 of them, I think, maybe 20, I don't know. And she had gotten a new doctor. Fortunately, I said, let me go and look up all these different medications she's on. I looked up all that stuff, multiple medications for the same ailment that they were saying she had. And fortunately, this was a doctor that had ethics, because some of these doctors have no ethics as well. They take the what is it called? The Hippocratic oath. But
Mhm.
when you see them and how they want to push drugs off on you, you wonder where they're coming from. So when we got done, my mother had 3 or 4 medications out of all that stuff she was taking. And this doctor said, I don't know why they would put her on all this medication. She doesn't need it. When she wasn't on all that stuff, my mother started feeling better. Same with an aunt I had her on a bunch of medicines. He got better. Same with my son David. I went through his medicine. His oncologist said, why is he on this? It was a medicine. This man, he had cancer. He shouldn't even been on it. So we have to do our due diligence and use our common sense. Go through these medicines. The education is out there. It's all online on the internet. See what these doctors are giving you, because you may find that it's too much and you being overdosed with medications.
Well, you know, you're absolutely right. And in the end, we are in charge and responsible for our own health. You know, even with diabetes, you know, I'm looking at the fact that even though I'm trying, now I may not be where I should be, but somebody has to be able to educate you properly on what you should do to overcome a diabetes. Well, somebody needs to be able to know what mental health really is. If my mother gets killed and I'm sad, and I'm sad a long time, who's to say that that is the wrong behavior for having your mother killed? I mean, what are we supposed to do? Turn backflips and jump up and down and laugh and joke? Or what is the appropriate response for your mother being killed? So how do we call people mentally ill because we don't agree with people? I mean, when I was on my job, I had to go off stress. They were doing some bad things to the Black managers and things like that. I went off stress.
Prevalent.
I go to
very prevalent.
They make you, they make you go through, if you're going off stress or might be on workman's comp, they make you go through a psychiatrist. Okay, this is a monopoly that you shouldn't even be able to have. You should be able to choose your own therapist or the type of therapy you want to go through. You shouldn't have to go through for them, but they have you go through. The psychiatrist asked me, he said, what's going on? I took about 3 minutes and told him what was happening. And he said, well, I can prescribe you some. And he had 2 different drugs on a 3-minute conversation. And I said, wait a minute, I'm the victim. What are you going to give me drugs for? You give it to the people who are suppressing me.
Absolutely, you know? The oppressors.
I said, where's your social work program? You know, where they can teach you how to cope with different things. He said to me these exact words, I'm a psychiatrist. I write prescriptions. That's what he said. I'm a psychiatrist.
That's what they do.
I write prescriptions. So they work for the pharmaceutical companies.
Absolutely.
Because that's where the money's being made.
It's all about the money.
I was in there, out of his office in less than a total of 7 minutes. And I don't know what he gets paid. Well, he worked for Kaiser, maybe he's on a salary. But they get paid a lot of money to do nothing.
To prescribe drugs without talking and getting to the root cause of why you are upset or why you're irritated. That's what a lot of them do. And any doctor, I'll tell anybody, when you go to a doctor, if the first thing they want to do before they've gotten to the root cause and figure out why you're irritated or you emotional, get to the root cause. If they try to give you a drug, why are you sitting there listening to them? Because they've already given you their final result. You just need some drugs. And it's all about the money. Big pharma that makes trillions of dollars off of pushing drugs. And I did a study, some research rather, when I was doing the show back in California, and over 70%, according to the research that I did, over 70% of Americans were on some type of drug, at least one, or maybe some were multiple. And that's sad. We are leading the country, the planet, I should say. We're leading the planet in legal drugs. And also, I did research on the number of people dying from legal versus illegal drugs. There were more people dying from legal drugs than illegal drugs. So there's something wrong with this picture of the so-called mental health system. If it's mental health, we should have less people on drugs than we have on drugs. And when you go into these institutions, I know from firsthand experience, these people are walking around in there like this, lethargic, like zombies, don't know their heart in the world, don't know who they are, and they'll try and come up to you, because my son was there, and I didn't want my son to be like that. So I had to fight for his rights. And I had psychiatrists to lie on me. I'll not lie. Prove it, but lie. And I said, excuse me, no, I never said that. And I said, you prove it. I'll not lie. I had another psychiatrist at Harvard UCLA Medical Center, where my son was just downright rude and arrogant and disrespectful, because I'm asking questions. You're not supposed to question them. I'm asking questions about my son's behavior, the drugs he's on, why is he on this, what are the side effects? And that's why I became an activist and an advocate, because of it. Now, my son just finally got hospitalized not this past Saturday, but the prior one, October 1st. Finally, he got hospitalized. And it's a breath of fresh air. I even told the psychiatrist that's handling his case now, I said, this is a breath of fresh air in speaking to you, as opposed to the time when my son was there several years ago at Harvard UCLA Medical Center in Torrance, California. It was quite a breath of fresh air. He listened to me. I asked him questions. Some of these doctors, you feel like they feel intimidated if you have the brains or the intelligence to ask them a legitimate question. And that's sad. I mean, this is my son. I should be able to ask you any questions about his care. And let me share this with you, Fred, and I'd like for you to elaborate on this. I've been trying to get David, as you know, hospitalized for months, because he had totally decompensated, because the mental health court improperly dismissed him. No doctor was there. His conservator wasn't there. I've been his conservator before, but I worked and got his father to be the conservator because I wasn't able to be there at the time. He needed to go to court. So they weren't there. They released him from the conservatorship. After that, he started decompensating, losing weight. I've been working, I've written to the president, no response from Joe Biden, no response from Kamala Harris, no response from Governor Newsom. I sent the letter certified, so I know the letters went there because I got the green cards back. Finally, October the 1st, my son was arrested for assault. And they took him to jail, from what I understand. And from there to the hospital. However, a couple of weeks prior, because I've been dealing with this, like I said, 25 plus years, I spoke to this so-called special program that can go out and see with the sheriff department to see if they can get the person to go to the hospital. They went out there and said they couldn't take him to the hospital. He didn't want to go. He wouldn't go. They didn't want to put hands on him because if they did and they hurt him, it could result in a lawsuit. Apparently, that's what they were fearful of. Now, mind you, when he hit somebody, and they filed some charges on him, you can go out there then and put your hands on him. You weren't afraid that you would hurt him, knowing that I've been trying to get him hospitalized for months and months and months, weeks and weeks and weeks, and you do nothing. You take the sheriff department out there and they say, oh, we can't put hands on him, he won't go. But as soon as he allegedly assaulted somebody and they allegedly press charges, you can go out and you can put your hands on him and do whatever you want to. You could have killed him. There's something wrong with these laws and these policies. So can you talk to me about that? Because I know you've been in law enforcement as well.
Well, yeah. One of the things that we got to acknowledge is that you have more rights in prison or dealing with law enforcement than you do dealing with a mental institution or a psychiatrist. Second of all, when you say tried to get him hospitalized, people don't realize that a lot of times parents make that decision because they're looking at the safety of the individual and they know that the kid can't take care of himself. So they're trying to get him somewhere that they indicate to be safe, because in a lot of cases, I'll say, it's the psychiatric drug and the treatment itself that took them overboard. You know, there might have been something wrong. There could have even been a physical ailment. But then when you get into the mental health field, it all becomes about mental health, no matter what. For example, I went for pain not too long ago to the hospital, and they assigned me a drug. Well, one of the properties or the side effects of the drug was confusion. Now, they make you wait 20 to 30 minutes, and then they release you. But what if on the way home, all of a sudden I found myself unable to realize where I'm going? And if I have the smarts to pull over to the side of the road and a highway patrolman come, where you going? You got a problem? I don't know. I think I'm trying to get home. Well, where's home? I don't know. Now I'm a mental health case where the shot actually created that.
Absolutely.
See, so they have us in this catch-22 where we need the facility to be able, because we can't take care of the person, but at the same time, there's, and I'll put it in quotes because this is my statement, my belief is that they're trying to create mental health patients for life. So therefore, these drugs and stuff where they know. It's what?
It's a money game.
It's a money game, yeah. So that's where we sit on all of this. There's really not a lot of help that comes from that. You can subdue people. You can give them a lobotomy or electroshock and make it to where they won't get on your nerves, but you haven't helped the person. You've taken the life force pretty much out of them, and now they're sitting there not getting on your nerves, but they can't, play a game of dominoes. They can't, this is what we're facing with this field, and this is what you have when you don't have science, and people can pretty much make it up as they go. I just want to say, we could take 5 different psychiatrists. Me and you could walk in with the same symptoms. We will get 5 different diagnoses and 5 different medications. And the side effects of the medication may be worse than what the disease, so-called disease, we walked in there with. So that's the thing. I was depressed. Now I take a pill. Now I'm hearing voices. Then I take another pill. Now I'm lethargic. And now I take another pill. Now I'm suicidal. And but I only walked in because I was really sad because Mom
ongoing.
died.
It's ongoing. It's just an ongoing. It's an ongoing money game. And it's so sad that our politicians are so corrupt, many of them, until they are bought. They're bought by pharmaceutical companies and these other companies that are the drug manufacturers and so forth. They're bought and they don't care. That's why they enacted the law to protect them. That trying to think of the name of it now, where you go to the court. What is that court called? Where you go to the court as opposed to being allowed to sue the pharmaceutical companies. There's it was enacted by one of the presidents under Congress. I can't think of the name of it now. But if you think of it, but it's a law where you cannot sue if your child comes up with autism or something. They got a court that you can go to now. And it's
Yeah.
been inactive, I think, since the 80s, I believe. I can't think of the
Mm-hmm.
name of the law right now, but I'll have to look it up and mention it the next time. But the interesting part about it, it's a money game because my son was on the conservatorship twice. Each time he was improperly let go from the mental health system. Now, mind you, when he was on the conservatorship, oh, he was doing great each time. Once they improperly let him go, he decompensates. Once he decompensates, here he goes back in the hospital conservatorship system. And it's like they allow you to get him healthy to a certain extent. And they say, oh, no, you can't do that. We can't let you get this person healthy because if we do, we're going to lose our money. Because my son was each time on the road to healthiness. He was calling me. We were talking all the time. He understood he was in a good space, in a good place. Every time, both times he's gotten in a good space, they ironically released him from his conservatorship as if to say, oh no, he's getting well now, so we can't have that. We gotta keep this person because we gotta keep our money going. What if this society had people like myself? I don't know what your drugs history or anything is. I'm not on any drugs. I'm 71. Not to say I haven't taken them in the past, because I think drugs can be used. They should be used in emergency situations or whatever the case may be. But to keep somebody on a drug forever so that you're greedy behind, and I'm saying behind because I don't want to say another bad word, to keep your behind with your boats, your yachts, all of this material thing that you're getting, and people are dying out here every day when they get better, like my son was. I'm angry about it. I'm mad about it. When I say angry, I'm angry about it. When I said mad, I am motivated and determined. I am a motivated and determined. That's what the mad is for. A Black woman to get my son back under conservatorship and pray to God that this mental health court does not allow this to happen. Every time he's gotten well, and not well, but better. I mean, just doing tremendously. Family picking him up, going to amusement parks, friends picking him up, going to dinner. He's rational, everything. And they let him go to say, oh no, we can't let him go. We can't let him keep on going like that and getting better. We got to get him back under the medications and get him doped up again and get him out of his mind again so we can keep him and keep our money. So it's a money game, and it's greed and it's corruption. It's a fraud. And we, only the citizens, can put a stop to it, but we just don't have the interest, it seems like. Why do you think people are so apathetic, even when they have loved ones like this?
Well, they keep us busy in life, busy with the foolishness. The mindset of most people is to go home, have a cold one, watch the game, watch a movie, be involved with the family, hang out with my boyfriend, my husband. We need warriors to develop mothers against mental abuse. Mama, we need all of the women that have somebody caught in the system that starts fighting and doing what CCHR does. CCHR will provide all of the information. I've actually started training a couple people so they can go out and do the speeches that I do. I can't cover everything, but if it's 15, 2,200 of us, 1,000 of us all preaching that message, people will start getting it. And yes. I want to get mamas, mothers against mental abuse, papas, pastors against psychiatric abuse. I want to create a new mamas and the papas, which represents the family.
Remember that, mamas and papas.
And dealing with this type of stuff, because you're absolutely right. And the thing is this, unfortunately, even though they have the Hippocratic oath that you shall do no harm, what they're doing is pretending like they're helping you by
they're harming.
prescribing drugs that do more harm than good.
Yes, they're harming.
And the only thing that's going to change that is the activism in the street. People deciding that you will not be our representative if you're not going to move forward with our causes. It's like, look, we got enough gang members to be able to put somebody in and out of office. It's like it's like it's time that we wake up and quit playing the game from somebody else's rules.
Absolutely. That's their agenda, and we need to change the narrative.
I mean, why would you have somebody in the hospital who can barely talk, who's 80 years old, on Prozac or Zoloft or any of those
It's
drugs?
Ridiculous.
What is he going to do? Jump up and run out?
Game. Thank you, because that's what they were doing with my mother. Had her on all of this crap, and I got her off of it because I said, why is she on 15, 20 drugs and she had there are some decent doctors out here, and I'm not saying that all psychiatrists are bad, because they're not. There are some decent psychiatrists, there are some decent medical doctors, there are decent people in this country, in the world. But it's difficult when the powers that may be are so corrupt and so greedy. And are we stuck on so much stupid that we keep putting these same people in office that don't care about us? They don't care about the public. They could care less. So it's up to us, like you said, the mamas and the papas and the children too, to come together and fight it. We need to have a march on California, where my son is. We need to have a march on Washington, where President Biden and Vice President Harris are, because they seem to be more concerned about giving money to other countries' citizens than helping their own citizens right here that's homeless. Some of these people sit out here on the grounds of the hospital. I've seen them with all these open wounds and everything. They're homeless. And if you go into one of those homeless shelters, it is atrocious how these people are allowed to live that are so-called mental. You wonder how even the mental health court is sickening. It was. I haven't seen it in a long time. I went into one of those shelters down on Skid Row in California, in Los Angeles. It was pathetic. And I wasn't supposed to go in it because they don't want the public to see it or to know about it. But fortunately, I explained everything to one of the staffers, and they allowed me to go in there. I was appalled what I saw. It is ridiculous.
Well, I want to say this and give some information. As you know, I got a family emergency and I got to get out of here. Yes, and we need to
get out of here because our timing is up.
But I just want to tell people, for more information, you can go to CCHRINT.org, CCHRINT.org. There's a wealth of information, campaigns. You can even put the drugs in your cabinet in our database, and it will give you the side effects. You can reach me if you're interested in being part of the task force. You want to be part of Mamas and Papas, whatever. Email me direct, fshawjr@yahoo.com, fshawjr@yahoo.com. And if you want to follow me on what I've been doing in fighting legislation, we're presenting responses to mental health things when it comes to African Americans, go to CCHRtaskforce.org, CCHRtaskforce.org. And my sister, I thank you so much. I do. Let's do this again on maybe religion or one of the other subjects.
Yes.
Soon. We need to keep updating the people on what's going on so they can see how it might affect them in the area that they're in. And
absolutely. Just choose the time when you can come in, unless, because I do the show a lot just myself with awareness things that I know I have expertise, because like I said, I've been on this journey and been in this world 71 years. I've seen a lot, done a lot. Like you, I have a PhD, like you told me that time, you got a PhD. So my condolences to you with the loss of your nephew, and I know you got to go and our time it is up anyhow, but I just want to repeat those that information, and I will also include it when I put this out on YouTube. That's CCHR, Charlie, Charlie, Harry, Robert, Ice, Nancy,
Tom.
That's CCHRINT.org. And the other one is CCHRtaskforce.org. CCHRtaskforce.org. And also, if you want to be a part of any of this, I have a website you can go to, louisehicks.com, and you can provide information. I have a Facebook page, Go Mental, the number 4 change. I have the YouTube channel, which is Aim to Purpose Radio. That's AIMED, the number 2 PURPOSE Radio. Aimed to Purpose Radio. So, and I have an Instagram as well. I have a Twitter. You just look up Louise Hicks on Twitter, and Aim to Purpose Louise Hicks A2P on Instagram. I'm on all the social media. So I will have Minister Shaw back. I always love him coming in, giving us information, vital information to help us navigate ourselves through this broken, not just broken mental health system, America's broken, period, really. I mean, we're living in a very divided, chaotic America. And it appears to be that the powers may be they're loving it, because guess who's getting wealthier? So please, people, do your own due diligence so that you can be economically, intellectually, spiritually, socially, physically, mentally, all of these. You can be sound and solid yourself, so that you can be using your brains and your critical thinking skills to make more informed decisions to have the best life that you want to live. And with that said, Minister Shaw, I appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much. Always glad to have you here. And as I said, always say before I leave the show, we create our own destiny. We have the power to do that. You know why? Because your power lies within you. Let it loose. Any other thing you want to say, Minister Shaw? If not, everyone.
I disagree with what you just said.
What?
That the power is within you, and let it loose. I agree with that. Mm-hmm.
That has been and it's trademarked. That has been my slogan. And ever since I got this Aim to Purpose, God gave it to me. This is my assignment. And that's why I go through brick walls. I will go through them to give the truth to people, to know that your power does lie within you, and let it loose. And I pray for your family, wish your family well in this time of your loss. So everybody, have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend. You may see me again. I have a little eye problem that I'm dealing with, but you may see me again before the week is over. I have a lot of things on my plate. So take care. We love you all. And thanks to everybody for tuning in and always being supportive. So have a good rest of your day, Minister Shaw. And we'll see you all later. Bye-bye, everybody.
God bless.